So the DryArc is targeting developing countries in Africa, in Asia, that already agriculture is a major livelihood and employment sector. And with climate change, there's been an increased variability of the climate, an increase in the frequency and intensity of extreme events, including droughts. We've seen prolonged droughts, and these prolonged droughts, although have happened in the past, but currently there's a larger population in those areas, and the population is increasing more and more in these areas. With the locked-in climate change, that we will be seeing more and more migration of the ecosystems, as areas become hotter and drier, these ecosystems will migrate north. So there will be more and more need for technologies and innovations that are suitable for the dry environment, so that we can provide continuously, or in the near future, opportunities and a systemic approach for those communities, in which by adopting it, they could increase their resilience. So first of all, when we do the research, we should always consider the development aspect of it. Where is it needed? Who is it targeting? What are the needs of those farmers? In marketing, we call them the 4 Ps in terms of the product, the placement of that product, the price of that product, and the promotion of that product. Now that's in pure marketing, what the private sector does. But for us, we need to look at it in terms of that our intervention is a product in itself. But where is that product suitable? And between community and community and location, that product might need to be revised. And that's why under the DryArc, we're looking at a more systemic approach, whereby it's not one solution fits all. We need the combination of solutions that when you bring them together, a certain combination fits one environment or one community, another combination fits another community. So that's your placement. And then you need to have promotion. Your promotion is how do you not only build awareness about it, but you have to go beyond awareness to building local knowledge. You need to build local absorptive capacity, so that community and that the farmer can absorb the knowledge and build on it. And this way you can really build resilience. Easily upscalable technologies are those that are affordable to the farmer, speak to them. They can see their future within them. They don't see them as something that is beyond their needs. Relativity, basically, and that they already need them. If there's no need, whatever they're doing now is meeting their need, then it would be more difficult to convince them about changes. That's why pioneer farmers are very important, because pioneer farmers are those farmers that are willing to take risks and to demonstrate. And then other farmers look at those pioneer farmers, they look at the impact it has on them, and this really encourages them to adopt it. We need to speak with them. Probably research demands and research needs differ, not only from country to country, but sometimes maybe from within countries, because many of those countries, they have different ecological environments within that country. So an exchange of ideas, a discussion, a deep discussion is required currently to really see what their needs are, what are they open to, and depending on what innovations we present to them, what is the reflection on those innovations, because that would be also a very good guiding opportunity for us to direct us in the direction that would be of benefit.
Private sector.
So if we're looking at a systematic approach, the system is a complete system, which is agricultural production and agricultural consumption. And when we're targeting very dry communities, some of those innovations are new innovations and they concern crops. So currently there are around 30,000 palatable crops out of the 400,000 crops that are available, or plant species available worldwide. And as humans, we've utilized 6,000 throughout history, where we have documentation on that. But globally, if we look, we have 150 crops that are being cultivated, and around 60% of our diet comes from 3 crops. So we have very much narrowed our diet to certain crops that we're cultivating. And those crops are not necessarily the crops that would be the most suitable and that would be climate resilient crops that for the DryArc region or many of the regions within the DryArc. So we would have to look at alternative crops. So when you look at alternative crops, you need to build a whole system around them. So it starts not only with having the seed and seed producers, but also creating the demand for it. Some of them are indigenous crops, and there has been historic local demand around it, but many of the locals, they don't find them when they go to the market. So that's easier. But when you want to build a system around a crop that has an external market as well, then you need to work with the private sector and find ways to introduce that crop into the diets of people. In Morocco, for instance, in southern Morocco, we have a project where we've introduced quinoa, and in that project we build the whole value chain. So we have a local seed producer, we introduce machinery, basic machinery that the farmers can like process quinoa. We've also worked with women's group on developing local dishes that speak to the local diet. We've done tasting events around them so that they appreciate the taste. We've worked with health practitioners on what is the nutritional value. So it's a whole system approach, and each crop brings its own challenges and diversity. At ICBA, we work a lot with these orphan crops that have the 3 abiotic stresses, which are they are resistant to heat, they are resistant to drought, so they require much less water, and they also can go with water that is not fresh water or sweet water. They can go up to salinity level. Some of the crops can go up even to seawater salinity level. But we need to build a whole value system around each one of those. So this new debate is bringing into, starting with the Eat Lancet report and other reports that have come out, that our focus during the Green Revolution has been on ending hunger, and we looked at increasing productivity of a pool of crops, and those have helped a lot. We have reduced hungers over 3 decades, but the last 3 years we're seeing a trend of rising global hunger again. But also simultaneously with that, as we bred for productivity, we didn't look at the nutrition of those crops. So now, as we know that there's a need for fixing our food system, or revising, I would say, our food system, because our food system is delivering exactly what it was designed to produce, but we need to revise it. So as we're revising our food system, we need to focus on, as we're breeding new crops, we breed for productivity, but we screen for nutrition, so that whatever we're breeding and reintroducing, we make sure that it's also delivering on the nutrition side. Oh, I wouldn't want to be a donor at this point in time, because every decade we're seeing the rise of another complex or wicked problem. Mm-hmm. We used to define eliminating or eradicating poverty as a wicked problem. Then we have climate change as another wicked problem, and they're intersecting, and they fall in a systematic way, they affect each other. Now we have biodiversity loss, which is another wicked problem. So you have rising conflicts, which also impacts hunger, it impacts poverty. It impacts biodiversity, and climate change is affecting the others. So we have vicious circle in many of these wicked problems, and all of them could be looked as one system. So where do you put your eggs? How do you invest?
But still, donors ask for some guidance. They want like research centers to at least give them a hint what they should invest into.
What do I, for me, food is vital. It's a necessity for life. So investing in food diversity, food that doesn't push on planetary boundaries as much as other food options. There is a need currently for changing both our production but also our consumption, our lifestyles. So there are going to be changes in the coming years at many levels, and the challenge now is to define how do we want to look in a few years, how would a sustainable planet look in a few years, and then work it back on where do we invest today. So South-South collaboration has been going on for centuries, not only for years. It's not a new thing. It's a concept that has evolved, in my opinion. It's exactly like a neighbor that's looking at what his neighbor is doing and not necessarily copying, but learning from that and adapting. And it's been the same with neighboring countries, and then as we became more of a global village, so that neighboring, the proximity between countries has decreased. So there's a lot of South-South opportunities for the future, but those really build on what has been going on. We just labeled it in a different way.